Hi, I'm Dave. Welcome to the channel. Today is a good day. Today is a mystery Revoslot day. So then, here we are, the mystery Revoslot. Now, why is it a mystery? Well, I've done a few things to help out magnetic racing, and they've done a few things to help me out. And anyway, we had a bit of an agreement somewhere along the line that I'd probably accrue enough credit to get myself a Revoslot. And that's what's happened. It was a nice gentleman's verbal agreement, and magnetic racing being gentlemen have honoured that agreement. So Ian bought this. I don't know what it is. All I did was I told him which ones I'd got and said, don't get me one of those. So who knows? And I've been very good, because as you can see, I didn't ruin the surprise for you or me. It's not in the thumbnail, it's not in the title. And as soon as it came out of that box in that unboxing the other day, I put some tape over it, so I don't know either. So it's a mystery. Here we go. Oh. Okay. It's a 911 GT1 from the new release of 3 liveries. Oh, look at that. All the usual. Magnet and a deep guide. We won't use a magnet. Not sure I'm going to use the deep guide either. Stickers. See? 2 stickers in a Revoslot. And all the usual stuff. Well, that's all good. Now, let's have a look at this car. Wow, that's pretty detailed. Even down to the little bonnet clips. They're not just a bump and a dot. They've actually got very small bonnet clips in the decal. Lovely. Red centres in the wheels. Very fine detail on that front grille. This is an amazing looking car. Yep, I was talking to somebody the other day, Dahi in fact, from DNA Stock Car, saying you don't get a lot of rivets on Revoslots, and lo and behold, there's one with rivets. Excellent. Right. Let's get this off here and take it to the workbench. Thanks, Ian. Brilliant. And Doug. Thank you, Magnetic Racing. Right, workbench. Right, so before we start looking at this car, we've got to have Magnetic Racing and slot our drinks coaster and a nice cup of coffee in my new Magnetic Racing mug. Merch available from Magnetic Racing. Plug, 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 plug. Okay, so this is fairly standard Revoslot fare. But we're going to give it a bit of a tune-up. Now, you're going to need a 1.5mm hex for some of this, but not all 1.5mm hexes are the same. This is a little 1.5mm hex from Pendle. And this one fits Revoslots better than this one. They're all supposed to be the same. We live in an age of modern, accurate CNC, but hey. Oh, and you're going to need a crosshead screwdriver just to get in it, really. So 4 screws with this Revoslot chassis. Slightly peculiarly, the front ones are a slot fit and the rear ones are a hole, so you have to take the rear ones right out anyway. This time round, in the what colour are the bits inside, it's red, everybody. Standard fare with the Revoslot, fairly lightweight. Interior, a little bit squeaky and rattly, not too bad. Generally speaking, that's not going to make too much noise as a shell, but it probably will act as a speaker, as they often do with these metal chassis underneath them. So the first thing I'm going to do on this one is back the motor screws off. Yeah, we'll get a little bit more involved this time than we do usually. So I'm going to move the motor out of the way and just see how the rear wheels spin. Yeah, a little bit tight. Now obviously I haven't oiled this or anything yet, but I'm just going to work on this as it stands. Now the first thing I can also see is the tyres are not on straight. So it looks like the wheels are buckled, but they're not. It's just the tyres aren't in place properly. So try and get the tyres straight. Now I can eyeball everything. You can see it on that far side one. There's definitely a piece that's not straight there at all. Now, having got that sort of about right, I'm going to just take half a turn off all 4 of these screws in the back that hold these 2 rear axle towers on. Because probably when they were making this car, because these things are pretty accurate, I reckon they put the towers in first and then put the axle in. So just slacken them off so that then it's the axle defining where the towers sit, not the screws. Get that so it's spinning freely and just tighten them back up again. Just in case there's any misalignment and it was binding before. As you can see, that is already running a bit freer than it was. The tyre's still not quite on straight though. I'll give that a last nip up so they're not going to move at all or drop out. And then I'm going to reset the motor position, get the gear mesh so I like it. Really what you're aiming for is something you can feel is a little bit of movement, but you can't really see it between the crown gear and the spur gear. And tighten and adjust and tighten and adjust. As you tighten these motor bolts up, it moves slightly, so you have to play with it. And just generally go around and check everything else is tight. It should be, but it's always good practice to check. And now the next thing I'm going to do is just check that all 4 wheels are square up and, if you like, offset correctly the same amount each side from the centre line of the car. So get the centre line of the car set up, put it on the block, and I'll try and show you that if you can see the gap between the tyre and that line, and the tyre and that line is the same, and that one's just overhanging a bit there and that one's just overhanging a bit there. So actually this is square. They pretty much always are from Revoslot, it has to be said, but it's always good to check it. The front seems to be running quite freely, so I don't think I need to adjust the front axle towers, but you could go through that as good practice. And at the moment it looks like for an initial run that the front axle height is just about right. With these you can't really adjust the front axle height. You have to put spacers in underneath the guide and lift or lower the guide accordingly. Same effect, but you're just adjusting a different part of them for, say, a slot-it. I think that deserves some coffee. So oil up all the oil in all the oily bit places. Look at that, that's spinning much more freely now. And I'm generally happy with that. Now, the rattle in the chassis is by design, but it is a bit noisy, so you can sort of reduce some of that clicking noise just with a little bit of electrical tape. Now, I'm not trying to restrict the movement as such. I'm not trying to stop the chassis from rattling. What I'm trying to do is dampen the noise it makes. So it will still move the same amount, but it will do it slightly more gradually, I suppose. So it won't click when the chassis moves as it's going into and coming out of corners. So a little bit either side. And I'm sticking it to both surfaces, but I don't want to really press the join down in between them, that ridge. I don't want to push that down too much. So it just sort of stretches the tape across the join. And that will reduce that rattle quite a bit. But there is still a little bit more rattle, which I'm looking for at this point. It's in there somewhere. I can hear it. And I've spotted it. It's where those two extra front rattle bolt holes are. So in my possibly questionable wisdom, I thought I'd try and just slide a piece of electrical tape in underneath between the two pieces of metal. And I tried and I failed, and in the end, for the purposes of this demonstration, I just stuck a bit on the top again. It's probably got about the same effect. And then I doubled it up just to make sure. A little bit of blue tack just to hold the wires down and put it all back together. Check that, there's float, there's not too much float. The wheels aren't fouling on the body. The guide seems to centre all right. I'm pretty happy with that for a first go through as a tune-up. Everything's looking good. Let's have a bit more coffee, have a tidy up, and we'll pop off to the track and see how it runs. But before we do that, because I forgot to mention this bit, I'm just going to give a real basic, crude treatment to these tyres. This is a fresh scalpel blade, and I'm just dragging it across the front tyres. There's a moulding ridge and some flashing in the middle of the tyre. And I've shown this before, and I think I got the idea off Harry at Home Racing World. Just take the high points off them. That's all you really need to do. And then a little bit of sandpaper. And because these are Revoslot tyres and they're really soft anyway, just a quick sand off just to take the high spots off them and give them a bit of texture. Yeah, it's not too bad. A few laps and these will wear themselves in and true themselves anyway, so let's give it a go. So this is literally all I've done, taken it out of the box, what you've seen I've done to it, and I've put it on the track. And it's immediately a really easy, fast, comfortable car to drive. It really suits my driving style, because it seems to like a little bit of tail out. You can drive it hard into the corners. And as you can see now, after a few more laps of practice and getting my eye in, I can really whip this car round. It sounds a little quieter now and less chirpy because the tyres have self-trued themselves on my track. And it doesn't want to tip over. It doesn't really want to de-slot. It's great. So, if we have a quick look at the leaderboard, this car has already made it to the 6th fastest of all time on the track at 5.4 seconds. Now, normally I say under 6 seconds is a good car, and under 5.5 is a very good car. Now, with some more tuning and a bit of fettling, I think we can get that further up the list. Might even take the new lap record. And here's the rest of the top 10, just to keep you up to speed on things. So here's a closer look at the car. It is a beautiful model. The details on it are quite incredible. I don't quite know how they've managed to mould those door handles with injection moulding in that manner. Look at those closely. Honestly, that's a head scratcher, that one. And just all round, little rivets, the details on the bonnet clips here. It's very, very fine details. There's those door handles again. I'm getting a bit obsessed with details at the moment on some of these cars. I should probably tell you a little about the real car. It was a bit disappointing in the end. It was entered in the 1997 Le Mans 24 Hours GT1 class, driven by Stefan Ortelli, Alan McNish and Carl Wendlinger, 3 great drivers in their own right, for various reasons. It did all right in qualifying. It qualified 11th overall, but actually only managed 8 laps in the race before it failed, and that was it. The sister cars that were GT2s entered by the same team managed to finish 10th and 11th overall that year, so the GT1 was greatly overshadowed by the 2 GT2s. So yes, as always, I'm quite enthusiastic about a new Revoslot. You would expect me to be. I really do like the brand. I think they're knocking it out of the park with all of their cars, these and the little Group 2s, the whole lot. This particular car in this category, I think, is a real winner for me. It really suits my track. It really suits my driving style. I am not going to have to do very much more to this car, and I think it is a contender for out-and-out record holder, which is currently held by that night and day liveried 911 GT2. So that will be interesting. Go through that at some point in the future, and hopefully I'll give you a new lap record holder. I'd like to say thank you very much to Ian and Doug for an excellent choice of car, and I hope you enjoyed it being a mystery for you as much as it was for me. And that's about it from me on this one. As always, thanks for watching one of my videos. If you liked it, you will find a button specifically for that. Please subscribe to the channel. It's free and it really does help. If you hit the bell, you will get a notification the next time I post a video. And as always, check out this slot car channel, which for the second video in a row, and they probably won't get one for a while now, is magnetic racing again. Thanks, guys.